What's up, guys? Today we're going to create our first web app in React. For those of you who don't know what React is, it's a very powerful language that builds a lot of web pages today, from very fancy to very minimal design. Let's dive right in.
Alright, so to do our React development, the first thing we need to do is to set up the environment. There are two things we need to set up. The first one is our Node.js. You can go to nodejs.org and download the latest version of the language and install it. Depending on your operating system, choose the correct one and install it. And the second one would be your Visual Studio Code. Make sure you download Visual Studio Code. It will make your lives way much easier. So once you install these two tools, what you're going to do is launch your Visual Studio. And let me close this. Close folder. Okay, and then you should be in this page once you install Visual Studio and launch it. And the first thing you do is you're going to go to new terminal, and open up terminal and find a location where you will be storing your source code. Just find a directory. I normally put it here, and then you just say create React app and give a name, Hello World 2, like that. And then this will create a bunch of skeleton files for your React project. And once it's created, we're going to do slight modifications just to make it easier for us to inject our new code and get rid of all those boilerplate files that we don't need. You'll see in a minute. Let's almost done. Counting down. There. Alright. So we did the project Hello World 2. And then what we're going to do is we navigate our Visual Studio Code to open this folder, dev Hello World 2, like that, right? And you will see a few of the folders here, but what we're interested in currently is going to be the source folder. The source folder has multiple files, and some of the files are the files that we don't need, and some of them are absolutely needed. For these files, app.css, app.js, index.css, and index.js, those are the 4 files that we need. Get rid of the files that we don't need. This one, logo.svg, and these 2 files we don't need. And now we have the 4 files that we need. And we will also take away the logo, and also take away this, and take away this. And at the end, we're going to save them all and make sure they all compile. Now, how do we compile it? We go back to our lovely terminal, new terminal, and say npm start. This will open a browser for us and compile the code and run it. Obviously here we mess up something here. Line 7 What file is this? App.97 19. What are you complaining about? Oh, okay. So we will just delete them all like this. We're gonna start from scratch anyway. So we don't need that, and then save, and that should work. And we can see it here. This is a brand new project and it's empty at this point. And then so that tells us what we got rid of are all gone now. Nothing to incorporate at this point. Now, let's move on to our actual coding. All right, we are in the Visual Studio app, Visual Studio Code now. We have cleaned up all these boilerplate files, and we're left with only 4 of them. And I'm gonna start talking about how to create our first component, which is the app component. App component is in React is the entry point to your web app. So I decided to start from scratch. Like everything else, if we start from scratch, it might be more informative. So what is a component? A component is a subset of files, a subset of HTML code and JavaScript that is responsible for a small portion of the screen. So since this is the main app component, we're going to start from small steps and print a hello world app, print a hello world on the screen first. To do that, we need to import React from React, right? This is the basic library that we have to import, and then we're going to, every component, it follows the same pattern, create a component function. In this case, we are trying to match the file name with the component name and create a arrow function, what we call arrow function. Arrow function is nothing more than a name and a parameter list and an arrow. And for us to build a component in React, we just need to build an arrow function with a return statement. A return statement is, you could return something like hello world, right? And then at the end, to complete our component, React component, we make sure we export this function or component to outside, so that from the outside we can call it. Now in this case, outside means in your index.js, you can call it just like any other conventional HTML tag app. And then we have an app function here, right? So, and that's it. And let's see if it will work. Make sure we save everything. And then make sure we start our development server here to test out our app. In this case, hello world. Look at that, right? And by the way, we could also make sure we apply our CSS in here. Our CSS is stored in our import. .css like that, right? And let's see. import our CSS, and everything is aligned in the center. That proves that our CSS works. Inside here, app.css, and we have this one, right? That we can tell it got imported, right? So far so good, right? And it's not that hard. Right, now what we want to do is to illustrate a couple concepts. One of the concept is a component concept. For example, if I want to build a Twitter component that displays only displays the message and the author, we will do something like this: create tweet, right? JS. Again, as always, the template is almost like the same. We add from how we add, easy, right? And build our arrow function here equals same style. Oh, by the way, we can actually export it before we forget, like that, right? Same pattern. And then we're going to have a return statement. To make it a component, we have to return something. And we're going to return a div. And then let's try I am a tweet more component. Just make sure it works, right? And then we save this. And then in our app, we can take away this. Instead, we can actually import tweet from tweet. Right? And then here, we can just call it just like, or as if it's a legitimate HTML tag, right? And then that should be it. If everything goes well, we should see I am a tweet component. Let's see. Save it. Then come here. I am a tweet component, right? So with that defined, we can duplicate this as many times as you want. Okay. So how about, but nobody really hard-coded the information in here just like that, right? What if we want to display something like message, or we call it tweet, is equals message, right? Something like a message or some sort. And then down here we can do h1 right there like that. H1, right? And then how about an h2 author, something like that, author, right? So what we want really is being able to pass some data into this component and display accordingly. How do we do that? We use a React mechanism called props. And then do this. And then do this, right? So the props will contain these two pieces of data, and then you reference it here. But how do we pass it in? We have to pass it in from the outside. Like something like this. Message equals my first tweet, like that, right? And the author equals Pete, okay? And then like that. My second tweet, author, Mary. Then here, message. There's too much typing, man. Third tweet. And then James, like that, right? So now make sure the name, the property name matches what we are expecting here. If it's lowercase, so be it lowercase. They have to match. And then if everything goes well, we should be able to see 3 different tweets. There, right? So you can write the component once and customize the data and display them like that. Right? This is how you do it, but I really don't like how it looks because it's ugly, right? So let's put some CSS in here and make sure we can, but just so that I don't type a lot, we can take this away, this old one away, and customize the CSS. But the key here is we are going to apply the CSS in the tweet component, and then here, and then we can go class name equals hello world CSS, and let's see, voila. Oh, it's blue. Okay, let's customize this a little bit in the CSS. How about white? Let's see what happens. There, it's much easier on the eyes, on our eyes. And now what, right? Let's see, what else can we do? But if you look at that, nobody is going to repeat this so many times. We can simply use one line and use some kind of loop to feed the data in, and so that we save some typing here. Instead of having 3 different tweets tag, we're going to have just one and just loop it through. So to do that, we're going to have to use a new concept called state. First of all, to use state, we're going to have to use something like import use state from React. How about that, right? And then to use this function state, we're going to do this, use whatever state name you want. In this case, is we're going to call it tweets, set tweets equals, let's say, wait, what I'm going to do now? Use state, right? Use state. I am drawing a blank for a moment. And then you're going to do something like this, telling this state variable is going to be an array, a JavaScript array. A JavaScript array is starting with a curly square bracket. So an array, let's initialize it a little bit and put some objects in there. A curly braces in JavaScript is defining a JSON object. So this JSON object has a message. First tweet like that. And then author. Let's copy this, maybe something like this, right? And then copy and paste this. duplicate this a couple of times and then just modify a little bit. Second tweet, and let's call this one Aries. And third, and then how about James, right? So now we have this state array. What do we do? Very simple. We're going to iterate through this array. Instead of typing it 3 times, we're going to do something like this. Curly braces signify, hey, get away from the HTML mode. Let's treat what's inside here as real JavaScript. And here we're going to say the array tweets map and tweet equals and give an arrow function, and it looks something like tweet message, and then do this, and then you're gonna have tweet dot message. As you can see, it's very self-explanatory. dot object, like that. Right, and then we can close this, and then we will close this, and that's it. So what we are saying here is, let's go into this array tweets, right? We define here, and then one at a time. Each time, this variable tweet singular will hold the content of one element of the array, and then we can feed this information tweet into the HTML code being displayed. And this curly braces means, hey, we are in HTML mode. Let's switch it back to JavaScript. What's inside is JavaScript. Again, this is the same convention. And then that's that. That's all. And then we can delete this. And let's see if it works. It should work if everything goes well. There, right? So we still have, let's reload to make sure. We still have the same thing. Now, this is how you create a state. And what if we want to add more tweet dynamically? Then what do we do? It is very simple. We can add a button in here to make sure. Let's add a button like that, right? And then we can add more tweet like that, right? And then let's do a line break here just to make sure. And then this button will have an on click to call something like add new tweet. And then what this statement is saying, add a button, when somebody click it, call this function, add new tweet. Let's define this function, right? And then is also another arrow function, same pattern. And this arrow function will, instead of returning something, it will try to modify this array to add one more tweet. We can do something like set tweets, which is this function that useState returns. This useState returns 2 things. One is the state variable itself, and a way to set the array content. In this case, it's set tweets, right? And then we're gonna do something like tweets, and then another message equals the message, right? And then author is going to be the king, something like that, right? And then what we are doing here is we set tweet, override whatever existing we had there, but instead of overriding the whole thing, we say, hey, create a new array with curly braces, and in the array you have the old content, ... tweets will give you the old content, the current content basically, and then append this new element in the back to construct the whole array. Now, after this statement, at this point, we should have 4 different entries, right? So, let's see. And where's the click? And then that should work. Let's see. There, right? It just magically appear. Why? How does it work? How does it magically appear? When we have the way React works is when you use state variables, if anything change in this state variable, the state will be propagated, will notify React, hey, something is changed, let's re-render the portion that has been changed, because React knows the portion that uses this state variable is somewhere here in this map. It will just re-render this portion instead of reloading the whole page. That's pretty neat. That's the reason it's called React is reacting to changes, reacting to event that's happening. So as you can see, it's very fast. So now we know how to add more stuff based on the data that we dynamically manipulate. How do we clear them? Let's say if I want to clear all these, how do we remove them? We don't go to HTML and remove the code. Instead, we just need to remove the data member in this array, and React will take care of the re-rendering automatically, magically, right? So it goes like this. Let's add a button, shall we? Let's do that. Button on click, but this button is going to be something like clear tweets. How about that? Right? And then say clear. Very simple. And then let's do BR like that. Okay, we don't have this function defined. Let's define it and see what happens. Clear tweets. Right? Same thing, arrow function, and in this case we're going to manipulate the array so that the state variable array so that React can react to it. In this case, that's clear. Give it an empty array and see what happens. And it's like that. And then we keep adding more, right? But let's see, clear, bam, it's all gone, right? So isn't that easy? Now we understand how the state variable is helping. How state variable is helping React to understand what needs to update, and we also understand how to use component and how to use array to render data on the screen. And what else can we do? We can do something like get some animation in there to maybe, yeah. Let's do some animation, shall we? In order to do animation, we are going to have to use a library called Framer. So you need to install Framer. Something you can install Framer Motion like that. And I already have that installed, but I will install again. Framer Motion. Once it's installed, you can import this library. Import motion from Framer. From Framer motion. And let's say we want something like, let's add this to slide from the left hand side to the middle of the screen. We can do something like this. Motion.div, motion.div, and then in here we can do a initial position being negative 100, and then we animate it to maybe do x equals to 50. How about that? And then we make a transition equals type. Let's make the transition being spring, so that it kind of bounces. Bounce equals maybe give a 6. See how bouncy the thing should be. No, actually, let's say 0.8. And then damping maybe equals to 6, so that it doesn't perpetually bounce. Do something like that, and then see what happens. There, you see? We're bouncing. Bam, 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 bam. Right? So it's a lot more fun this way. And if you want to clear it, you can just clear, just like the old way. And to make it more fun, you cannot delete it individually. How about Framer Motion is a very awesome library. You can do a lot of tricks. One of the tricks I like is make it draggable. Watch. Here, you add more tree in here, but you can drag it. You can flow it. Flow it like Among Us. Flow, drag anything, flow it away. It's kind of cool, huh? Doesn't take too much with Framer Motion. It's very powerful. It's very fun. You clear it, and then that is a short tutorial to give you a crash course of basic React operation and how React works and state management and all those goodies. I hope you enjoy it. If you find it useful, please subscribe. See you next time.